From the PSIA-AASI Satellite Studios in Portland, Oregon, I'm George Thomas. You are listening to First Chair, and fun show today. We've got Derek Mikulski and Melody Buell joining us to talk about, and Derek, I'm going to let you take it away right here. I'd like for you to introduce yourself and let us know what we're talking about.
Yeah, I'll start with the topic first. I think we're going to, really dive into today's more of an exercise type of discussion, specifically focused on prevention of injury, increasing of stability and balance and strength, especially as it relates to skiing and snowboarding, but also just longevity and health in general. So that's the topic today. My name is Derek. Again, I'm with Gibbon North America. We are the manufacturers of the Slackboard. I assume a lot of our audience is pretty familiar with that product at this point, but just in case, it's a slacklining-inspired balance training tool. And that's largely be the kind of the focus of today's discussion, and how that unique stimulus can bring value to skiers, snowboarders, and all of us who are training for longevity and health. But yeah, I've been with Gibbon for about a year now as the Director of Commercial Sales and Education. But prior to joining Gibbon, I started and scaled my own fitness equipment product company for 10 years, right before COVID, exited that company. And since then have been consulting and, always been passionate about fitness and exercise. I actually got started in health and fitness when I was 18. I lost 80 pounds as an 18-year-old, was super unhealthy, like very inactive, completely flipped the script. And that's what actually got me into exercise. So since then, I've made it kind of my mission to make the world better through exercise. That's what I've been doing since I was 18, 19 years old. So at least that's what I think I've been doing, I'll say.
Awesome. Thank you, Derek. Melody.
Thanks, Derek. It's really heartwarming for me to hear about what your actions towards living into your purposes, and how you've had such a distinct journey that in terms of how you've impacted your own life and then carrying that forward. I think that's really admirable. And thank you for sharing that. I think that probably resonates a lot with our members in terms of like how we've had an experience and how we can then bring that forward and impact the quality of life of others. So thank you for that. I'm Melody Buell. I'm a current member of the PSIA-AASI national team, and I am also now a Gibbon board enthusiast. And I'm looking forward to talking to you about how it's impacted my preseason training. I'm a huge advocate of year-round training off snow. So for me, what that's looked like historically is getting in the gym and getting after it with some heavy weights. And I have introduced the Gibbon board as of June. And I think Derek and I will probably get a little bit more into the specifics of that as we carry on.
Love it. Derek, you're talking overall fitness here. I think of slackline. I think, very specific on balance, but I think there's a lot more there. I feel like, I'm fit. I run, I ride, but, I'm kind of skinny fat. I do lots of aerobics and really need to focus on a lot of other things. Can you tell us how the Slackboard would work into our overall fitness?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that I point to that not only relates to you, but everyone, is we've got 4 different clinical research studies taking place to help us answer some of these fundamental questions about, why is, in this case, balance training so important, especially as it relates to the Slackboard. And, when you say, I think all of us fall into routines where, we find something we like with regards to health and fitness, and we stay in that lane. One, because it's comfortable, but 2, we're improving as we're doing it, right? So it feels good to make progress in that specific lane. But the reality is, what we've learned is that balance training specifically is really neglected across everyone in health and fitness. And of course, I'm generalizing, but we are looking to understand better, what other areas of our lives balance training impacts outside of just like being able to stand more upright and stable, right? So athletic performance, surprisingly, mental health and well-being is massively related to balance and balance training. We get some incredible benefits from getting out of our head and into our body when we're engaging in balance related activities, whether or not we're on a Slackboard or hitting the slopes, right? You see your problems vanish, right? Because you're so in the moment, you're in this flow state, you're tapping more into your body's rest and relaxed physiology as opposed to the heightened stress response. So I think from a number of angles, you can argue that balance training is fundamental and should be done by everyone. And it's, in this context, we're talking to skiers and snowboarders, obviously, and all of our members here. But in the broader sense, I think it's something everyone needs to be mindful of, especially as we get older. And these physiological mechanisms scientifically have been shown to break down. So the more we do it, the less we lose it, and the more we improve on it. So.
Melody, would you like to follow up on why you brought this into your training starting in June, and what have you noticed during the past few months?
There's a reality. Usually my first, day of skiing, couple of days, regardless of how much training that I'm doing, I have that day where it's all my little balancers are just go nuts. And the truth is there's a lot of little movements that are happening within our boots. And honestly, I'll say at this point, it doesn't matter what discipline we're talking about right now. There's little movements that are happening to maintain those micro adjustments and to get into that precision performance that I get to the end of my first day, my second day. I mean, it takes a little while for me to get to a space where I'm like, oh yeah, I can be out here on snow and not really have any of that little micro cramping. And my hope, later this week when I'm on snow, is I will have less of that. So I'm hoping that the time I've spent on, with movement, and really the thing that I'm gravitating towards the most is the opportunity to increase what I'm hearing, balance. So adding instability to movements that I know that are going to be demanded of me on snow. So I'm thinking a lot of, I love just honestly playing with it. So getting on it, being on one foot, doing some toe taps, doing some, even if they're just half squats, right? Here I am, I'm I can't quite nail a pistol squat. I'm not really looking to judge myself for it. I'm looking for myself just to be doing things and find range of motion that's actually going to be similar to what I'm doing out on the hill. So moving through that and allowing those balancer muscles, especially in my feet, to really wake up and to actually get that full range of motion. Something I know at the end of the season can be a challenge for me is my feet have been so stabilized for months that it actually is a bit of a transition to get to a space where they have loosened up and where flip-flops feel more comfortable. So I'm actually thinking about that transition as well, and how my shoe choice is going to be impacted by giving more mobility opportunities to the muscles and the bones in my feet. So that's really where I'm starting. That's really, honestly, if you're asking me to what I'm the most excited about, it's that. And I get so much precision out of my skiing through the ways that I move my feet, that I'm hoping that that's going to bring a lot more to what it looks like, truthfully, in a few days here when I'm out in Colorado for team training. In addition to that, another piece that I'm really loving is just a lot of movement and honestly a lot of push-ups and core workout and stability, so that I can increase that feeling of what it's like to really engage the upper body. We've been talking a lot about increased core stability. We've done a lot of work with TheraBands or resistance bands over the last couple of years, and really getting that practice when I'm off hill and I actually am moving and getting the sensation. So for example, if I'm doing push-ups on the board, I totally love this particular activity. I love how I'm getting those little micro sensations that are similar to the way that the snow is going to respond to me as I'm moving through. Because the truth is it's not flat ground. I know that's something I think we all have come to realize, is that we are doing squats on unstable surfaces where the ground is constantly moving, right? And they are also not symmetrical. So it's adding variability into movement patterns that I'm doing a lot in the gym already, but now it's becoming more difficult. And here's the thing I just keep coming back to is there's a sense of play in it as well. And that's something that stayed really alive for me. Is it's funny. I get out there and I laugh and my dog comes over and wants to know what I'm doing. And now all of a sudden my exercise is a little different, and it's bringing this sense of joy to my experience. And I just see it having potential to also generate some more community. So for me, a lot of stability, a lot of focus towards those little micro movements, particularly in my feet, and warming that up. I'm also hoping I get some results in my shins and my calves and all in that space, and then definitely with my core as well.
So Derek, is this something, Melody's talked a lot about musculature in her feet and movements in her feet. Is this something that you do barefoot? Do you use it with like zero rise shoes? How do you use the board?
Yeah, I think so. Like Melody said, slacklining inherently is, initially was intended to be a very fun and challenging modality, right? So we've maintained the fun and decreased the challenge to make sure almost anyone can get on a Slackboard and be successful. I just wanted to point that out. It's not like you're balancing on a tightrope between two trees. This is way dialed down, but still intense enough to provide some serious balance and stability benefits. So back to your question though about, should you have anything on your feet when you're engaging in exercising the Slackboard? I think our preferred approach is doing it barefoot because, like Melody said, that's when you're going to get the most activity in your feet and ankles, while also, sometimes we forget about anytime we put a barrier between our feet and the ground, we lose the touch sensation, or we call it proprioception. So eliminating all the barriers so that we have direct contact with the surface we're on is going to bring even more balance training benefits. So, but we do have people, especially if they're in like a gym, right? And you don't want to take your shoes off in the gym. You don't want to be barefoot. You can certainly do this in your shoes and still, get tremendous benefits. But the preferred approach is doing it barefoot. Yeah.
Just a quick pause to say, you may qualify for a scholarship from the PSIA-AASI Education Foundation. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out on your instructor journey, head to the Professional Development tab on thesnowpros.org to learn more and apply now.
I'm also, you've mentioned a gym, but I teach group cycling, and we're looking at adding a group treadmill class where people can walk. It's cold and rainy up here and doing different things. And I'm immediately thinking, how fun would this be? Where Melody was talking about how much fun it is and play to do this as a group.
Yeah. We actually have gyms that teach group fitness Slackboard classes. Yeah. I mean, all the way to there's Anytime Fitness franchises, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, I think, franchise of fitness facilities in the US. Some, they have locations that have Slackboards, a ton of programming for kids in group settings, whether it's, kids just looking for an outlet or kids who might be neurodivergent. So kids with, autism or ADHD, kids with Down syndrome, anyone who benefits from, again, the idea of getting out of your head and into your body. So yeah, a lot of populations benefiting from them.
So Melody, what's it like the first time you tried it? I don't know what your history with slacklining was, but how do you get out of your head the first time you step on there and kind of were like, whoa, this is a new sensation?
George, that's a great question. I have little to no history with slacklining. So it was like, oh, what's this thing? I'm going to get it out of the box. Thankfully I'd seen some social media posts about it. So I had some semblance of how to approach it. And, the truth is I just kept it light and I looked to step on it and just feel what it was like. And and just to see some different movements that felt good to me. And honestly, I gravitated towards what was natural for me. At the time it was great weather. I was, I just put it out on some turf that I had out at my place. And my pup was right there to get involved and make it a little bit more exciting, which I think added positively to the experience because it was lighthearted. I didn't say, oh, I'm going to go get a workout in this. Honestly, I probably had been to the gym that morning, so my body was nice and loose. So I wasn't actually putting myself at risk for injury since I didn't have a lot of focus yet. And I didn't really know what I was doing. And I just made fun of it. Honestly, I made fun of the experience and I didn't say, oh, I must do it for 20 minutes or anything. I was just like, no, I'm just going to move my body and see how this feels. And I'm going to keep doing what feels good. And I'm going to see how creative I can get. And I'm going to see if it's hard, I'm going to do it a little longer. And that was kind of the mindset I took towards it. And I was really mindful to not stay focused on on failure, in fact, moving towards failure, which I also think is a wonderful practice for us to be bringing into our recreation anyways. Like, let's be mindful of like, hey, failure is a space for opportunity and growth. So if I was finding spots where I was like, oh, I'm getting a little shaky in this spot, I'm like, I guess I could do more of that. And or how could I do this harder from my world experience? And what I found is I felt really informed by the movements I was choosing, by some experience I have in yoga, some experience I have in the gym. And those were the things that felt like they were, I don't know, pulling me in directions to try things, whether they were balancing type movements, whether I was using it to increase instability in different plank poses, for example, or I think it's like starfish or something like that, where you like just getting up and really trying to make things a little bit more challenging and really increasing that instability in movements that I think are just so applicable for what we're doing up on the mountain.
I would love for the two of you to have a little discussion here. You have a couple of alpine skiers here. How does this apply to alpine skiing, cross-country skiing, telemark, and snowboard? All of our members of PSIA-AASI, how would they benefit from using the Slackboard?
Derek, do you want to lead off or you want me to?
Sure. Well, how about, I'll point to some of the things that we're seeing in the science, and then Melody, maybe you can go into the get more granular with regards to these specific, athletes.
Okay.
I will say that, going back to the discussion surrounding like muscle activation around the feet and ankles, we're doing one study right now that's using electromyography technology. So you attach a sensor to a certain region of the body and actually measures the extent to which a muscle is contracting. We're seeing the Slackboard outperforming all the other balance training stimuli that people are getting on as a comparison. So things like, other stability trainers, foam pads, the air inflated trainers, all that stuff. We're seeing more muscle activation in the feet, ankles, calves, thighs, hips, trunk, or core muscles, right? So that is going to be of benefit to anyone, not just skiers and snowboarders, but more muscle activation means more activity taking place. The body's having to work harder to maintain its upright posture so that when you step off the Slackboard and into real life, you're more stable and balanced, right? Two is we're looking at balance outcomes. So literally 8 to 12 week training programs with different populations, some of them using the Slackboard, some of them using the other balance tools. After a 12-week or 8-week training program, what's the outcome? Who's improved more? And although none of this has been published yet, we are seeing the Slackboard groups far outperforming the others, which is also pointing to, hey, we've got a better balance outcome here as well. So muscle activation, balance, and then, some of the other benefits that we talked about with regards to like the emotional regulation, the increase of strength and stability. Those are all things that we're going to be looking into through research more in the future. But yeah, that's what I'll say with the benefits right now. And then Melody, maybe you can take over with, getting more granular into ski and snowboard.
We'll see what I can do. Derek, that listening to you speak about this sparked some recall when I posted a couple of just activities on Instagram a few months ago. I actually got some personal texts that were getting really excited about it. And a lot of what I heard was they had bought a board, people had bought a board to just to have something to play with while they're at their desk, or they have a standing desk and they like rotate just on and off. And it was neat to hear people's and members, these are all people who are PSIA-AASI members, talk about how they are using it in real life. And, the stats that you're listing off and some of these studies that are coming out, I mean, I totally believe it. Like the response, like the way that it feels under the foot, it feels very realistic. Like I've actually done some of the like foam square balance experiences, and it feels kind of like a really soft boot to me. So like when there's not quite enough support in a ski boot, as where the experience that I get off of the Slackline it's a little more responsive. It feels a little bit more like the boot that I ski in. So it's definitely a different tool, and I think it provides something that's a little bit more in line. So with that, when I'm thinking about our disciplines, I'm thinking a lot about how, alpine skiing, absolutely. And honestly, I'd go across the board for all disciplines. Like if your feet are involved in the way you're skiing, I think all of those little tiny balancer movements. So anytime I feel like your feet are in contact with the slack line, you're getting benefits. Like I don't even think in my opinion, from my very novice exposure, it doesn't really matter. Like foot in contact, balancing on it, you're getting the benefits. And that's to me where like the allowance of play really opens up. If I'm thinking a little bit more about, like in that space, I'm actually thinking about mono skiing and telemark skiing and how important it is to have really good pelvis and hip engagement, and understanding how that is sometimes becomes more of a primary contact with the snow is actually getting into a really deep lunge and allowing the instability to actually run through that bent leg. So if you can imagine a foot on that slack line, or in this case, maybe you even have your pelvis on the slack line and you're able to like use that as some instability so that you can learn how to actually engage from the bottom of that pelvis and pull it in. So two ways here for visual. One would be if you are ambulatory to be able to put a foot on the line, go down into a deep lunge where the instability is being managed through the pelvis. A second way that I would probably coach someone into this is actually seated on the line. If their body can tolerate maybe putting just like one sit bone on there and having it run through, then I would do it that way. The other way I would have them do it is just have them sit across so that it's going totally across the glutes, and then just finding any instability in that space, but really trying to focus that coming from that lower abdomen through the pelvis to mimic those two. So thinking about those two as a start. And then thinking about, I really go back to all of our other disciplines and just kind of get a little bit refocused on how any kind of leg movement that is similar. So like, let's think about kicking through. That would probably be a little bit more related to our cross-country disciplines. 1 foot, like balanced on the board and actually swinging the outside foot, but with control or maybe an external resistance. And then also, we go back to, I just keep looking, any kind of like squat, in my opinion, that is not super symmetrical is going to benefit your range of motion. And that gets me excited. I think that's one that I keep going back to, just 1 foot up on the slack line, the other one stabilized, and then just getting in a really nice, healthy squat position and aiming for that true full depth squat where I'm maxed out. And what I like is that it really simulates like some of that instability that you feel from 1 foot that sometimes is a little bit different than the other. And then getting the chance to refine those little refinement movements that give me the precision that I'm looking for. And I think that translates well into all disciplines in terms of what we're looking for. What did I miss?
Since Melody said people are using it at a stand-up desk, I wish each one of us was on a slack line for this interview. I guess we could act kind of like,
Yeah. Well, no, I think we didn't speak to snowboarding at all, and this is a good kind of opportunity to talk about the 2 different ways you can set up a slack board. So you can set up a board with 1 line going down the center, which is like a standard slack line, right? But then each board also allows you through 2 different attachment points to set up a board with 2 lines that run parallel next to each other. That allows you, and so instead of standing with your foot parallel with the line, like you would, on a standard slack line, you can turn your body 90 degrees and actually stand on it with your feet perpendicular, where you've got support now at the back of your foot and on the front of the foot. So you can stand with 2 feet. And that's what we see being used as a stand-up desk, because you can do it and you've got this unique stimulus, but you also have a level of balance that also allows you to, put more of your focus and attention on your work versus not falling over. But for snowboard specifically though, that's the position you're in on a snowboard, right? Like, so you can bring your feet anywhere from completely together to separated up to 40 inches apart. So you can mess with your base of support too, to target different muscles and to allow yourself to have more stability by separating your feet or less stability by bringing your feet together. And then, you can go through an array or an assortment of movement practice or exercises, working on some of those snowboard postures and positions And then, like Melody said, layer in some of those more fundamental exercises like squatting and lunging and deadlifting and things like that that'll help further build the strength. So,
Derek, where can PSIA-AASI members go to get more information about the Slackboard, and how can they order one?
Yeah, just give.
Order one?
Yeah. So we have a listing on the website, on the pro page of the website, the PSIA-AASI website. So you can go on there and follow the link, or you can just go to gibbon-usa.com. That's our website. You'll see not only our Slackboards, but all of our slacklining gear is right there as well. But for all of our group here specifically, we've got, we're a sponsor, so we've got a discount code that everyone can use, which is PSIA20. So it's just the PSIA portion. PSIA20 will save 20% off. And right now we have the boards on sale for the holidays already, but we're actually giving you guys that 20% on top of sale pricing. So the prices are like super inexpensive actually, which is great. So for gifting or for personal use, this sale will go on at least through the end of, at least up and through Cyber Monday, I believe. So got some time to act. Yeah.
Fantastic. Derek, Melody, anything you want to say in conclusion?
I'll jump in just by saying that we've got, one of the biggest things I think when you're trying a new piece of equipment is how do I use it? What do I do with it? We've got a lot of content that we've created specifically for skiers and snowboarders. That's free on our YouTube channel actually, but we can, support everyone with that material so that they can get started correctly. And on top of that, we've got literally hundreds of other exercises and workouts to help supplement the usage. So there's no shortage of content to help guide people along the way once they get one.
All right. Melody, Derek, thank you so much for taking the time to chat this morning. Really appreciate it. And hope you have a great season ahead.
Thanks, George.
Thanks, Melody.
From the PSIA-AASI Satellite Studios in Portland, Oregon, I'm George Thomas.